What is the average year that their stadiums have been built? What would you think?
1900.
I was going to say 1910.
1931.
1931. Okay.
We're approaching the average for power schools to be 100 years old.
I'm not telling you that all this doesn't make perfect sense.
At some point, somebody has to rip that Band-Aid off and build a new stadium.
45, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30. He's gonna go. Holy cow.
Big Red Junkies.
Day by day, he gets better and better. He gets better and better. Give me JPP. Give me Oh, man, woman, and child, he just turned this stadium inside out.
All right, gentlemen. We're talking about stadiums.
Specifically Nebraska's, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be bringing up some other stuff on other stadiums too. But
Jed pulled some numbers on the South Stadium project, and like we kind of started talking about this a little bit with Elijah, and how, like, me personally, I think the project's dead in the water.
Yeah.
At least as is. I don't think it was ever really a thing. I think it was kind of a,
It was a vanity push.
Well, it was a vanity play for sure, but I just don't think the proper support was back there to ever have it be real.
No.
I think he was trying to kind of manifest it, and that might be the biggest reason that he left, now that we've seen everything kind of transpire over the last month. But
I know that the South Stadium needs something done. I don't necessarily know if it needs what was proposed,
A concourse?
that amount done, but I'm kind of just curious, like, at what point do they start talking about a new stadium?
that's something that I was thinking when we were talking about it last time when Elijah was here, and I did not bring it up because I didn't really want to go that far into the stadium, but this is a stadium talk, so yes, talk on.
Because at some point, all these renovations are great, whether it's at Nebraska or all of these other big-time stadiums. Kyle Field for Texas A&M did a new end zone handful of years ago. Texas just did a new south end zone like 2 years ago. It's just weird in college football, you don't see new stadiums.
Well, because there's so much reverence for the old stadium. You look at the Rose Bowl, it's the pinnacle of old shitty stadiums.
Yeah.
And everyone loves it for some reason.
No, everybody hates it.
Well, then why the fuck do we keep using
People
it?
love it if they're not in it.
Because it's called the Rose Bowl, and it's basically like, why is it that college football stadiums hold this reverence of tradition and everything else, but in all other sports, not that it's completely apples to apples comparison, but in all other sports, we see new stadiums all the fucking time.
I have a guess. We're still pretending it's not a business.
Well, there's some of that.
And because it's not a business, why do we need all the new shiny things all the time?
Because, like, Oklahoma just did a new proposal that they want to do $1 billion new arena and, like, a big business district. And it's getting shot down like crazy down in Oklahoma. And the Sooners were basically like, if we don't get this in Norman, we're going to go somewhere else for our basketball and gymnastics. Like, as if a university is going to go play in a different city for their sports.
Jesus.
Now, I mean,
could.
They're basically a suburb of Oklahoma City, so they could just go up to Oklahoma City and play in that arena or possibly or whatever else. But it's just, we see new stadiums for, and again, college, pro, different, all the time. But in college football, for whatever reason, nobody wants a new stadium for anywhere. I mean, these stadiums are fucking old.
They're really
all
old.
across the
Some
country.
of that, the maintenance is expensive. And when you think about the cost of just building a brand new stadium,
Yeah.
it's not that much.
No.
You don't have to build the spaceship like they built for 2 NFL teams out in California.
Yeah, we don't need it. We don't need a state. No college. And again, this isn't necessarily just Nebraska. No college needs a football stadium that's going to host a Super Bowl.
No.
All of these NFL stadiums that keep popping up, they're built for the purpose with extra amenities and different things to be able to host the Super Bowl. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we automatically, any college that wants to build a new football stadium, it's automatically $1 billion. It's not entirely accurate.
But if you think about all the stadiums in the NFL when they were built, Some of them were built a long time ago. Yes, that's true. But a lot of them have been built in the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
And a stadium like Lucas Oil Field, that's this basically $200,000 or $200 million more than what Trev wanted to spend to upgrade South End Zone. And that's a great stadium that's indoors where the Big Ten hosts its big game every year. You can't tell me that that's not something that we should be considering for basically apples to apples. When you look at the money we've spent on North Stadium in the last 10 years and now what they want us to give to South Stadium, we will have spent more money on that than just building Lucas Oil.
Well, another thing you have to consider is real estate. You don't want your stadium that far from campus.
Yeah.
There's not that much. Yes, there is in Lincoln. But I'm saying, in general, most of these are in downtown city areas that are completely surrounded by buildings. You're knocking something down and then to build a college football stadium.
Yeah.
Sure.
In Baylor, they built a new stadium 10 years ago. 45,000 seat stadium. Obviously, Nebraska's not building a 45,000 seat stadium.
But 70 would be perfect.
For $255 million.
No, it wouldn't.
Well, if we build a new stadium, it'd be 75 to 80. It wouldn't be the 90,000 that we have now.
No, I don't think we need 90. I don't think with the way that everybody likes to watch the games nowadays that you need 90 in any stadium.
But I mean,
Michigan really struggles to fill that stadium.
If you do Baylor's really nice stadium, and again, just for easy numbers, you just double the seating, double the cost. That's a 90,000 seat stadium for over $500 million. Like this proposal that Trev had and stuff, I know it says $450 million, but it was definitely going to be more like $6 million. So realistically, why the hell not? I mean, the average year. I'll just have you guys guess for the power schools. What is the average year that their stadiums have been built? What would you think?
1900.
I was going to say 1910.
1931.
1931. Okay.
I guess there weren't that many colleges.
But I mean, think about that.
But we're approaching the average for power schools to be 100 years old. I know we just celebrated our 100 year, but it's like that's 60 something, almost 70 schools that on average is 100 years old.
I'm not telling you that all this doesn't make perfect sense.
At some point, somebody has to rip that Band-Aid off and build a new stadium.
There's other Band-Aids that have to come off first. The biggest one being, we need to start considering these as businesses.
Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest Band-Aid that needs ripped off is actually getting back to winning. You can do a lot more.
I'm speaking more in general, not just for Nebraska.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
When you talk about a place like Michigan needing a new stadium because it has too many seats, they don't need to get back to winning. They just won the Natty.
But could you imagine having a conversation to get rid of the big house? I mean,
can I imagine it? Sure. I'd love to tear it down.
I was going to say, it's also a fucking...
I'm just talking about the conversation. That's what I'm trying to... That's what I'm kind of saying at the beginning. Like, what is it about the reverence of college football stadiums?
It's just nostalgia.
That people hold over all of these other things that we build all the time.
I was sitting in that seat right there when this play happened. They tore down
Yankee Stadium. I mean, like, we can do this.
Yeah. I enjoyed that, too.
It's doable. But I don't see it ever happening. I thought the exact same thing.
It's going to have to happen at some point.
And the reason that I didn't say it was, it's going to take something more catastrophic than the collapse that happened in the 90s. It's going to have to happen, like, while a game's going on.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, and the other thing is you look at a lot of, modern concrete to old concrete. There's a lot of engineering, and we should call Cam Lenhart. Maybe he can give us a schooling on it. But, you look at, there's old roads that are out there that are like, wow, why the fuck is this? Are we able to drive on this 35 years later and it's still, decent, no potholes, but they lay brand new fucking streets now and it's like pothole central 5 days later.
Yep.
There's a difference in the quality of build on things now, and there's also a big difference between older generations, the way that they look at things, just items in general, and the younger generation. We're a turn and burn, throw it away, buy something new, whereas the older generation, they fixed everything. they kept their vehicles until they fucking literally couldn't fix them anymore.
Or they put it in their garage and then made their grandkids clean it out 20 years later.
Like, I mean,
you see a lot more hoarders in the older generation. I'm not saying that one's good or bad or one way or the other, but at the same time, when the older generation, like I could see this being more of a topic of conversation 20 years from now, when the older generation of people that still truly remember the 90s and remember all of those great, glorious days.
You know, people like your age, Jed.
I'm talking more of like Jed's parents' age.
I might be dead in 20 years.
When they're gone, that's going to be when you're going to see some of these more realistic conversations come about, I think.
Like I said, it's going to happen sooner or later somewhere in the country. And again, I know Baylor is a quote unquote power team, but they're not one of the big boys. I'm talking the Oklahomas, Nebraskas, USC. I mean, I don't think they'll ever tear down the Coliseum. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, those types of schools.
USC doesn't really need to. The Coliseum isn't that big, is it?
No, they also only put people in like half of it most of the time.
Yeah.
They just did a big renovation to it too.
Did they really?
Like last year.
What, just
they gave everybody
add
recliners?
More tarps over the seating, or every time I watch a game at USC unless Nebraska's playing, it's fucking half the stadium's tarped off.
I think they put in some suites and something with the press box, but I don't remember
Sweet.
exactly what it was.
Did you have any other major numbers on that? Because I mean, the South Stadium as project as is, I think it's dead. I think if you do anything to the South Stadium right now, you should be ripping the seats out, putting club seats in, or
I will say the renderings that came out looked cool as shit.
yeah, it looked cool. Why not?
Like if we just had all the money in the world and nobody gave a fuck, I'd be in.
It looked like a pro stadium.
Texas, their renovation 2 years ago to their South Stadium.
It looked like a legitimate Coliseum.
Was well, so they say it was like 170 something million, but like just the stadium was like 85 million. The rest of the money was to insert this, education building here and,
Sure.
different things, kind of, again, like kind of a business district-ish vibe. So again, like, yeah, we could put in $100 to $150 million and just kind of renovate South Stadium rather than tear it down. Because also a good chunk of the price tag that Trev's thing was also about tearing it down.
Yeah.
If you take out tearing it down, that drops a lot of that money.
Sure. But didn't they say that structurally, basically the way that it's built, if you're going to do anything to it, it has to be torn down, like all the way down?
I kind of think so, yeah.
And it's not, they want to slap a really easy way for anybody to try and just bulldoze their way into these projects like this is slapping ADA stuff on it. It's like, shut the fuck up. There's plenty of ADA in that stadium.
Just put
as is.
Just put that
just
somewhere
in a
else.
different part of the
in a different part of the stadium.
Yeah. When it comes to ADA seating, it doesn't have to be where you bought the ticket.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. And there's enough there's enough space around the field on the ground for that stuff to be taken care of. If I was going to see a difference to the stadium made in a way that affected seating, I would almost want the seats closer to the game.
Yeah. Well, one of the big reasons why it is because there used to be a track around the field. So that's
and that all makes sense to me. Like, don't get me wrong, but like you want the student section to be more relevant, and you want the student section to be more involved in the game and
put them on the field,
more invested. Put them on the fucking end zone. Take a note, take a page out of Minnesota's playbook and put them in the end zone, right down there on the fucking field. Mm-hmm. Get right the fuck in their face. Let them do that, and give those tickets away to the first. Make it a smaller section, but give those tickets away to the first however many kids, and they can't be resold. You have to have your student ID in order to get in.
One of my other thoughts, as far as whether it's talking about a new stadium, and again, this isn't just necessarily a Nebraska conversation, is basically coming very soon is paying players through the university. Well, until that happens, why don't we take some of that money and start putting it away for a new stadium? Because once you start paying players, a good chunk of that money's gone.
Doesn't matter.
Just
once you start treating it like a business, it's an easy moneymaker all around.
I know
they'd be able to afford it, no problem.
I think I'm more on the side of we need to have more serious talks of replacing the stadium than renovating it, because you can only put so many layers of lipstick on the pig.
But it's such a pretty pig, Jed.
And the thing is, like, I took my youngest son Dale to a game last year, and at one point we walked down on the east side. You know, you got that new face to it from. It's not new anymore, but just inside the doorways is the face of the old stadium.
Yeah,
and I was pointing out things and showing him the old structure and all this other stuff, and that's great. I loved doing that. I would love to do that with maybe my grandkids if the stadium is still around or whatever else. That's all great, but at the same time, if it went away, I wouldn't.
Yeah, the problem is
no, and you could still leave. You could leave that east portion of the stadium up as a fucking museum.
Yeah.
Sorry, a Husker museum would bring great traffic.
I mean, look at what Rosenblatt.
Yeah,
that little ball field that they still left there with the home plate where it is and all those other things.
There's 12s of people that go through there every year.
No, there's more than that.
All I'm saying is that pig is my pig. That pig is your pig. And until you get enough people to quit caring about the pig, it's going to remain.
It's going to be 20 plus years.
I think it should be sooner. But
one other thing that I think
I also know reality.
The other thing that I think you made a really good point about was the more of an entertainment district immediately around the stadium. Yeah. It is so much of a buzzkill to walk 1.5 miles or 2 miles to that fucking stadium after your tailgating. It is so much of a buzzkill to walk 1.5 miles or 2 miles over to the bar district in the Haymarket or wherever the hell you're going afterwards if we're going to go celebrate a win. There's nothing, there's no immediate culture, vibe, anything.
No, you want to talk about a buzzkill?
Right around the stadium.
Add alcohol to the games.
Well, that's another thing that's going to happen eventually if you're looking at the athletic department standing alone as a business.
But if you guys would just want to talk crazy talk, why don't we just build a new stadium with a casino around it?
Legalize gambling.
Put a horse track around the outside.
Legalize gambling and get Harrah's to finance it for us. We'll be golden.
I still like, and you keep saying 20 years, and whenever it does happen for one of the big boy schools,
it's going to happen for everybody.
I wonder if it's what kind of a domino.
State. Yeah. It's going to be like Ohio State getting an indoor stadium.
But I wonder
it's going to have to be somebody that big where it won't matter.
But I wonder if that's like a domino that like all of these other schools just all of a sudden be like, "Yep, we got to do this."
Whoa, their stadium's really fucking cool. I want that.
It's kind of like renovating the weight room. Once one person renovates their weight room, somebody else.
That's happened since Nebraska in the 90s when everybody all of a sudden decided they needed this giant weight program.
Well, it's because good amenities like that attract kids.
And I did not know this happened, but did you know your Titans are going to be the next one getting the big stadium? $2.6 billion. 2.1 billion, excuse me.
Titans and Bills.
Hopefully they're still keeping it in the same part of Nashville, though.
If the Bills aren't building a fucking dome,
they're not.
Oh my God, that's so.
They love the elements. It's part of their culture.
You should.
They're not building a dome.
Part of the NFL.
You don't want to jump on a table and snap it in half, and then go inside and be warm.
Yes, yeah.
You need your injuries to be frozen.
Part of the NFL should be a requirement that you have to build a dome if you're building a new stadium,
or at least a retractable roof.
Yeah, that's fine. That's totally cool. Yeah. Whatever. You want a fucking 40-degree day game? That's fine.
Why do you need a dome in Arizona?
You need a dome in Arizona. You don't want to be playing in 145-degree weather on the field.
Find me one game where they played in 120-degree weather.
It's kind of the same concept. They have a dome, so it doesn't Vegas. Matter. They put the dome in Vegas because it's too fucking hot.
That's silly.
No, it's not. It's dangerous.
No,
it's not.
Do you think they should have that same rule for any Japanese baseball teams that get a new stadium?
No,
you know what?
We're not talking about any Japanese baseball.
I can't even put those words out of my mouth.
I've had enough.
We've been so scolded.
I've had enough of that for the next 10 to 15 lifetimes.
Do us a favor. If you never want to hear about Japanese baseball ever again, like, share, subscribe.
Please, for the love of God, don't make us talk about it again.
I had to bring it up.
It's so bad.
And this may be the most unbelievable night in Cornhusker football history.